Hello there, ladies and gents, and welcome to this week's WorldBuilder Tip of the Week with me, MonolithicBacon, on behalf of Code2.org. So, last week I promised that I would move on to something that I should have done a long time ago, which is starting maps from scratch. This is probably about a year late, but considering that I still get asked this question often, I figured it's about time that I show people from step one how to create a brand new map. So, what I'm going to do is go through a method that I've used for a number of years now, and I presume is the method that Relic themselves use. It is nice and simple, but you've got to make sure that you have a plan set in mind to begin with. So I'm going to go into this under the assumption that you already have an idea of what you want to do first, and that you have a working knowledge of Company of Heroes 2. So, to begin with, make sure that you have this directory open when it comes to creating a new multiplayer map. You want to have the MP folder and a folder named after the map that you want to create. Within that, create the new file under the exact same name and click Save. Here it will ask you what size you want to do. Now, I already know what size I fancy. If you want to load up some of Relic's own maps and check the sizes themselves, I would recommend it. But the idea is that the playable area you have here includes the soft map edge, where infantry and vehicles come in when you buy them or order them to from off-map. So this playable area is not actually entirely playable. There's going to be a border around that you can't use. So usually the playable area has to be larger than it would have been in Company of Heroes 1. The terrain size is as far as it goes before it becomes a black edge. So usually this has to be quite a big area. Not massive, but a big enough area that if you look off in the distance you won't see anything beyond buildings, trees and stuff that's in the distance. So once you're set on your sizes, click OK, and it will take a little while to load up exactly what you want. However, the blank canvas that you get is very intimidating, so don't ever get afraid of this. It's going to be like it is here, plain and wide, a massive starting area and a bit scary. To begin with, go onto the fog button up here and click that off. And don't worry about the colour or the tiles for now, that's not important, it's not the first step. What you want to do instead is go onto overlay, jump down onto toggle show playable area, and it will create this red band around the outside. This is the largest area that you can possibly have and does not include the soft map edge, which is what we have to account for. After this, go back onto overlay and jump onto grid 32 meters, and it gives you a working space that you can do anything you want with. Outside of this red border, you don't want to do a thing. Everything that you do from now on should be inside here. Now, when it comes to starting my maps, I will usually draw up a plan of what I want to do in the future. I will come up with a territory design that I can build with. This can take some practice. Now what I'm going to do is, while I explain a little bit more, I'm going to start drawing up mine so you can see how I do it. But jump onto splines and textures, and you should come across something on here under designer called soft map edge. Click assign and move your mouse so that you're looking over the entire map. Now I've got into a habit of giving 64 meters of soft map edge. So 2 squares on all sides. So you right click this across one of the borders and do the same on the other side. And then you can copy that one if you so wish to save some time. And same again over here. And that is the actual playable area of your map. So the area between this red line and the outer red line is where your units will reinforce from. Now the next step is saving. You can save your map early, and I would recommend it in order to make sure you don't lose anything, but you have to place some key things first. So go on to object placement. This usually takes a little bit of time to load the first time you click on it. But go on to EBPS, gameplay, and you want to try and find starting position, shared territory, and where you want your teams to go, you right click one of these places. Now this is the American looking base that we had before that you may have seen already. Now, considering my plan, I'm just going to move it over here, and I'm going to place 2 of these, and then over on the other side I'm going to do the exact same thing. So that is just a very brief indication of the area I'll be working with. After this, you need to make sure that you have starting territory team and place that somewhere in the back corner, which comes out as a little flag, but it's invisible in game, so don't worry about where it goes. And then to go along with that, you'll want to find a map entry point and place at least one of these 32 meters in for each team. So that should about do it. Finally, what you'll need to do from this point on is place a single territory point. Now, for reasons that will become clear later, I'm going to place 2, and they will be victory points. So I'm going to place 1 there, and 1 there. So from this point on, you should be able to save. All you need to do is go on to Territory Editor and calculate Voronoi. Once you click that, you come up with this brightly coloured space. The blue here is one base, the green here is another, the purple is a VP, and the yellow is a VP. The final step before you can save it properly is to select one of the bases and the map entry point and change it to one team. Select the one next to it and set it to the other team, and then do the same for the 2 over here. Make sure that every team has its own map entry point. It'll tell you if you don't. So I've got team 1, 2, 3 and 4 all set up, ready to go. Hit save, and it's done. That game is now saved. And as long as those don't get changed at all, you will have no further problems with saving your game whatsoever. A lot of people end up losing their maps from crashing, and it's not really worth the waste of time. If you can do this early on, then you don't have to worry about anything else from here on in. It gets saved, and you can save it whenever you want, and you won't lose any changes. Get used to pressing Ctrl S to save quickly, and it will save you loads of hassle. So, the next step is to move on to territory. This is always the first step that I do now. In order to prepare for everything else, I'd rather build terrain around the territory rather than the other way around. It makes it a lot easier. So, again, considering that I've already got a layout in front of me, I need to start drawing this out with splines before anything else. So I'll usually go onto Urban, Stone Road, and go onto the Arnhem Brick Narrow. Now, no one else does this but me, but I always do this myself because it's noticeable. It's a very obvious spline. It doesn't stand out against certain things, like when you're in the territory view, but it stands out against normal textures, which is perfect. Now, my particular design here is not going to be the simplest of ones to mimic, but I think if I do that to start with, the idea with this is that the territory layout you're creating is only going to be very, very basic. So it's going to change a lot in the course of the game. And as you start creating more and more of the map, you'll start changing some things around. I also tend to start all of my designs as very mirrored, but that changes as I progress. So here I've got the territory points, the victory points near the corner with a cut-off point that I'll put in here. And from this point on, I can do that part of the territory there, and this part of the territory there. Again, it doesn't matter if it looks rough, it's going to get ironed out as you progress through. After that, I should have one that goes here. And this already I know that I'm going to change. Again, as you may have just noticed, all splines have to have 4 points in them. otherwise they won't work. And then it's the exact same on this side here. Now, your design of map is entirely up to you. Obviously, there's no one who can tell you otherwise. But there's a general rule to follow in how many points you have. Again, some people don't really care, they can do whatever they want, but the general rule of thumb is 3 victory points, then you want 2 fuel points, 2 munitions points, and 10 manpower points, or 10 normal territory points. Now, personally, I will show you a little trick that I do myself to avoid a bit of a messy situation in Annihilate games. In victory point games, you will still have the 3 victory points. But in Annihilate, those 3 victory points become manpower points. And whenever you get that, it means that you actually have 13 manpower points, which can be a little bit too much sometimes. So instead of placing all 3 victory points to start with, I only place 2. And the third one goes in right at the very end, which hopefully will become apparent. Now I'll just put a border around those territory bases, and I can finish off the little territory strips here. So one goes there, and one goes there. And again on this side, one goes there, one there, and that one there. So, even though I built this only for 8 players, and there's only 4 bases on here, I'm going to have to do some further work in order to make everything fit. But I already know how I can jiggle some stuff around. The next important step to get us towards the end of this is to place all the points that you want. So, I'm going to get my territory fuel point MP for multiplayer and place them where I want the fuel. Then grab the munitions point MP and place them there. And then the rest of them are all territory points MP. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I was debating with myself whether or not to have particular things in the map, which were the what they're called. They are reinforcement points, but I was going to have either the medic ones or the construction ones. For now, I won't bother with that. I think I'll stick to just more territory points until I'm happy with the design. So once you've gotten all those in place, again, just go back on territory, calculate the Voronoi, and you'll have this beautiful mess. But from here on, you can get yourself towards the next big step. So if I save it where I am, now this is something that will happen. Because I've recalculated the Voronoi, territory has overcome the map entry points, and the map entry points are now outside the HQ areas. So this is something that needs to be changed before we can save it again. But as I've said, the lines that I've placed, the splines down here, are very visible through territory lines. So over time, what you'll need to do is eventually follow the guidelines that you've painted and create a very, very basic outlay of the territory that you want. This can take some time, depending on how complex it is and how used to it you are. But click sample, click the territory colour that you want, and just follow the map that you've already painted until you have a very, very basic outlay to work with. These white circles that you see in the centre are the capture areas. Don't worry about those for now. You'll have to remember to put them back in later, but if you paint over them by accident, it doesn't matter. Just by clicking paint capturable, you can repaint them back in. So nothing to worry about for now. But the idea is that you follow these guidelines that you've gotten until you're absolutely happy. And then from there on, the more and more you design your map, the more it will start to take shape. Territory needs to be the first step you do, but is usually the very last thing to get finished. So, although this is nowhere near done, this is a process that can take upwards of hours if you want it to. But this is just a very brief guideline, like I said. So here we have the not final stage, but the next step of your territory. So this is after 5 minutes of filling in all the lines that I've painted to give you a very, very rough overview of what your territory will look like. This is far from perfect. The idea is that eventually, if I get rid of the overlay, you'll get rid of all the territory that's outside this red line, apart from the HQ areas. And obviously you'll need things like the capture areas painted back in on each point. But just to finish off some of the major points that I wanted to cover, I wanted a third victory point, and I never placed one, and that's because I don't like the third point having a major territory of its own. Instead, I like the idea of it being an isolated point that is very easily cut off and not worth very much in Annihilate games. So, this is the centre of my map, and what I'll do is click right in the very centre of it, and you'll notice it comes with no territory. So you have to go onto the territory editor and go add territory under new points. It'll ask you whether or not you want to proceed with it, but the idea is yes. It'll tell you which point is processed, and there you have it. From this point on, you sample it, you give it a capturable area, and set the size to about 15. Click right in the centre of it, maybe give it a bit more of a rounded look. And then as you go into game, this point will have only a capturable area, and it will be smack bang in the middle of those 2 points. Now, on the grand scale of things, if you get rid of all the overlays and have a look around where you are, again, your map will look pretty intimidating. It's a big open area, and it's a lot to work with. But so long as you have this territory in place and you have your guidelines, you now have ideas of where to put buildings, where to build trenches and ditches, where to put hedgerows and bushes, fences, walls, the lot. These territory points are now guidelines. The best thing you can possibly start with from here on is roadways and major destructible objects. So the hedges, which will take a long time to knock down, or groves, trees that can't be removed, places that will cause cut-offs. But that is something for another time. Okay, and once you've gotten all that, you should be pretty much done. That's the only thing that you should really need from here on in. Everything you do from this point on in your map is entirely your choice. The idea is that once you have these first steps in place, then it will run like a normal functioning map. There are so many choices ahead of you, whether or not to go for nighttime or daytime maps, what type of environment you're doing, if you're doing the western front, eastern front, your colour scheme, your palette, your tiles, your textures, your buildings, whether it's field, urban, everything like this. It's a massive step to take. The best thing you can do is go in with a plan. Make sure you've got an idea in mind. I know for a fact that this will be an entirely rural map based on Kursk, which I'm definitely going to start getting some trouble for, seeing as everyone makes Kursk maps, but I thought I'd try my hand at it for once. But further along the line in the production of this map, I will do more tips of the week to show you some of the more simple and maybe even some more complex steps along the way. So stay tuned, and I will see you next week for Tip of the Week. This has been MonolithicBacon for Kotu.org, and I will see you next time.